Reddit Rabbit reads, when have you been genuinely scared for your life? Caught in a tornado, out-iced, no cover, just laid down in the mud and prayed. Trees fell all around me but I managed to stay put and none landed on me. It was nuts. I lived on an artificial heart for 11 months. It was battery driven and at night I had to plug everything into the wall. The terror was real. I had a thick cord exiting my abdomen attached to a computer that controlled a pump inside my body. The computer failed on me twice and I had to swap it out myself. When the computer unplugs, you have no blood flow. Capital I had to experience this twice. Then I had a heart transplant. That was far less terrifying than the artificial heart. When my oncologist stopped saying the growth and started calling it the cancer and followed up with now I'm gonna have to figure out how to save your life. Fortunately for me, he figured it out. My friend and I were eating burgers in a darkly lit area on a street in Seattle when a man walked straight up to us with his hands in his pockets, gesturing like he had a gun. He says, "Give me your money." I immediately pretended to be drunk and got all chummy with him and said if I had money that would be amazing. And the guy looked around and then walked off. No idea if that was smart or incredibly stupid, but I definitely realized in that moment that when your mind is in fight or flight you have little control over what your brain is going to do. Had a massive asthma attack. As a paramedic myself, when your colleague looks you in the eye, as he's sticking defib patches to your chest and radios for a 2-crew cardiac arrest backup, you know it's not good, especially seeing as they can't use medical jargon around me as I already know it. So I know what a silent chest means, you're not moving any air. I know what it means when the nebulizers haven't worked and they start giving adrenaline. I know what the defib patches mean and I know none of it's good. I remember passing out really slowly, and as I closed my eyes I genuinely thought I was going to die and I'd never opened them again. To come around in the ICU later and with the same colleague by my side was the best feeling. He saved my life undoubtedly. I was 12 and went to Disney World with my sister and parents for Christmas. We went in mid-December, and surprisingly it wasn't overly busy for the holiday yet. We were on the safari ride, and they have this one part where you drive over a bridge. Little did I know, this bridge is designed to simulate a collapse. As we drove over, the driver said this bridge needed repair. Then boom, the thing starts tightening while the huge truck is on it. I thought for sure I was about to die. I was thinking a million thoughts a second from the rush. Then after like 4 or 5 seconds the bridge repairs itself and the expedition continues while the driver giggles at the kid who screamed for his life and silently cried for the rest of the ride. Besides that, it was dope seeing all the animals though. When I was a Boy Scout, we were backpacking in the Eagle Cap Wilderness area of eastern Oregon. We tried to make it up Glacier Pass, but the trail was completely snowed out still in July. We turned around and stopped at the first meadow we found to eat some lunch. About 15 minutes go by and our scout master very calmly tells us to stand up and put our backpacks on because we needed to leave. I look in the direction the scout master is looking and there is a very large cougar staring at us from across a shallow creek. We started down the trail and I looked back towards the cougar to see if it had moved. The damn cat was crossing the creek and following us. We kept moving and kept looking back to see it. Occasionally, the cougar followed us for about 3 miles before we lost track of it. That night, we had a decent sized campfire and me and 2 of the other older boys sat up most of the night watching out for it. The next morning, we found a freshly dead animal about 100 yards from our camp. During Hurricane Harvey, me and my dad had to get some people out of Crosby. However, they got I-10 shut down, so we had to take some of the back roads to get there. On the way there we got to one part of the road for a good 5 miles. The water was about 4 feet deep. My dad's truck is very big and the water was almost going on the top of the hood of the truck from water being pushed. Dad said he's been in war zones during his time in the army, had to drop troops off near an Iraq mortar squad that was bombing our drops during the Gulf War, and he said his heart had never beat as fast. Edit. Sorry, accidentally put inches. It was feet. Edit 2. Went back to actually change the paragraph to fix inches to feet. Was at work while in uni and got this chest pain that would not go away. It was like something was pinching me and I had already been having right leg hip pain, so once I left work I slept it off. Woke up that night, could barely walk and was in tears the whole night wondering if something was going on. I was an idiot and should have gone to the hospital. Still not sure what it was, but a friend said that it could have been either a panic attack or a mini heart attack. Recently got my heart checked and I'm a-okay, but at the time it was terrifying to think I might die while I was hours away from my family. Edit. Really wasn't expecting most people to see this, but thank you for the kind words and advice. I really appreciate it and will keep all of it in mind just in case. I was 17. Wanted to take a dimmer from an old light above my bed. Was sure I had unplugged it. Hadn't. I cut the wire for the lamp and saw an incredibly powerful spark. Everything was white. The breaker for the second floor went off, so when I regained vision everything was black. I thought for sure I was dead. Cutting live wires with 220 vac. Luckily the wire cutters had rubber grips. The wire cutter were broken afterwards though. The edge had melted together from the electricity. Husband and I were in the car at a red light on a trip. Light turns green and we noticed but had to pick something up from the floor or something before starting to move. After retrieving the soda bottle, we started to go, and a giant truck stacked with raw logs blares his horn and runs through the intersection full speed 20 feet in front of us, where our sedan should logically have been. The stoplight was at the bottom of the hill and he couldn't stop in time. When I was about 11 years old, I was home alone one day over the summer enjoying a bag of Skittles and watching TV. I tossed a bunch of them into my mouth and made them into a sort of ball, which I enjoyed to do. Then something made me laugh and I ended up swallowing it. The ball wasn't huge, but it was big enough to get stuck in my throat and causing me to be unable to breathe. It was terrifying because nobody was home to help me and I started to panic. I remembered some cartoon or TV show where a character was choking and slammed their stomach into a chair to get it to pop out. So I started throwing myself into the side of this recliner we had, and even though I probably wasn't doing it completely right, it actually worked and the Skittle ball popped out. It was still one of the most terrifying minutes of my life because I thought I was going to die and very well could have. Now I'm a lot more careful whenever I'm eating something and I'm alone. Driving home from Minnesota. It was in January, and there was clear skies against the crisp air, until we hit Eau Claire and suddenly it was like a curtain of ice came down on my car. I had been going 70 miles per hour, and never had the opportunity to slow down. The defroster in that car wasn't great, and my windshield iced over in a matter of seconds. Needless to say, the road was also pure ice. I'm in the left lane, and there's a car in front of me quite a ways, but I'm catching up to it. I'm scared to death to hit the brakes as fast as I need to because of the ice. In a moment of inexperienced wisdom, I turn to my friend, tell her hold on and attempt to very slowly move into the right lane. We end up doing a 720-degree spin down the interstate and somehow manage to come to a complete stop on the shoulder facing the wrong direction on a bridge. I thought we were going to die, but I James Bonded it and we lived. Working as an EMT and having a knife pulled on you at 3 AM in BFE with no police or fire backup. Went home and cried in my mom's arms. I had already worked almost 12 hours, so the adrenaline was mostly gone. I just stood there waiting to get stabbed. My partner was already in the back with a patient. Thankfully he opened the door to ask me something and startled the lady enough for me to jump in the front and drive. I was away on holidays with my boyfriend in Portugal, a town called Albufeira. A few years ago, we decided to walk between the old and the new part of town along a cliff edge. We didn't realize it wasn't a marked path and there were loads of sheer drops from the cliff into the sea with a lot of jagged rocks in between. We were terrified but couldn't turn back. A swift wind would have blown us down. When we finally made it in one piece to the end, we saw a sign telling us the dangers of the path and the €2,000 fine if we were caught taking the path. I once got lost during a school day where we walked around my Vietnam, and at the end of the day they told us to walk in a direction and we would eventually get back to the school. Long story short, that wasn't helpful. I panicked and eventually got help from a kind kindergarten teacher at a local, kindergarten, who drove me back to my school where a small manhunt had started for me. When I was 8 years old, we had an hour in our elementary school where we could play outside. I was climbing on I don't know the English word for this, on a wall. I call it Kletterwand in German. The first few times everything went fine. As I was climbing again, my hands got all sweaty and I couldn't hold myself in the wall anymore. I fell 2 meters to the ground. At first I was just laying there and wanted to start to cry, but I couldn't breathe. I just couldn't breathe when I tried it again and I started to suffocate. My teacher saw me grasping for air and called the ambulance. They later found out that I broke my back or spine. My English isn't that good on 3 different spots, and that was the reason my lungs wouldn't work. It got better after a few days. I'm glad that I still can walk. Reddit Rabbit has appeared to tell you to like and subscribe for good luck and that he loves you. Leave a comment below to show support. Thanks for watching, guys.